How I Met Your Mom and Got Banned from the Pub Twice in One Night. Part 1. The Night Everything Went Wrong and Right. Chapter 1. The Pub of Destiny. It started, as all catastrophic love stories do, with a Tuesday.
Not just any Tuesday.
One of those Tuesdays that feels like it's been photocopied from someone else's disappointment. Gray sky.
Soggy sock.
The kind of day that smells faintly of overboiled vegetables and emotional stagnation. I had just spent 8 hours pretending to be productive in the thrilling world of print-to-toner logistics, only to realize I'd worn 2 different shoes.
Again.
So, like any British man suffering an existential crisis and a mild foot-based identity emergency, I went to the pub. The Tipsy Sausage sat on the corner of High Street like a drunk uncle at a wedding, loud, impossible to ignore, and decorated in poor taste. It boasted faux Tudor beams, flashing LED signs, and a suspicious plaque that read, "Voted Kent's #1 roller skating pub, 2009, disputed." The front door wheezed open with the resigned sigh of someone who'd seen too much. The smell hit me first, a heady mix of ale, fried regret, and something that might have once been cheese. A jukebox blared an off-key remix of Angels by Robbie Williams. I took 2 steps in, and then she hit me, not metaphorically, not romantically. I mean, she literally, physically slammed into me at approximately the speed of shame. She was on roller skates, tray in hand, dressed in a tartan miniskirt that violated several Newtonian laws of fabric tension. Her eyes were the color of Guinness foam, and her scream was the last thing I heard before I was flattened like a budget croissant. 6 pints launched into the air in a majestic arc. A Yorkshire pudding performed a graceful pirouette mid-flight. I hit the sticky floor with a wet thwack, followed closely by a small ramekin of horseradish sauce that landed directly in my ear canal. Silence. Even the jukebox gave up. I lay there, stunned, reeking of roast dinner and dignity collapse, blinking up at the angel of destruction above me. "Sorry," she said, deadpan. "You broke my landing. That was the first time I saw your mother." Now, in my defense, and I cannot stress this enough, I wasn't trying to flirt. Not intentionally. I was concussed, slightly drunk, and covered in condiments. But something in her voice, that cool sarcasm wrapped in mild panic, short-circuited my remaining brain cells. She extended a hand. I took it. She pulled me up with the weary strength of someone who's dragged many men off floors before. I wiped gravy off my forehead and attempted a sentence. "You ever, grab a bagel after work?" She froze. The pub gasped. A glass shattered somewhere in the distance, purely for dramatic effect. It was as if I'd said the most profane word in British history. Worse than moist, worse than Brexit. Her eyes narrowed. "Did you say bagel?" "Yes," I said brightly. "Round bread, chewy, emotionally misunderstood." "Out!" boomed a voice from behind the bar. I turned to see a man who looked like he'd once wrestled lions for a living and lost on purpose. Trumpet in one hand, mop in the other. He wore a sash that read Landlord and Amp, Herald of Tradition. "You dare mention foreign breakfast circles in my establishment?" he roared. "This is a sausage pub, sir." Someone in the back shouted, "Traitor!" Another hissed. An elderly woman spat directly onto the floor beside me. A man in a full-body sausage mascot costume began doing threatening jazz hands. I tried to speak but was cut off by the loud blast of a trumpet. The landlord blew it with the gravitas of a Viking announcing war. "Banned," he declared. "By order of the pub patriarchy and the order of the sausage roll." The pub erupted in applause. Your mother covered her face with her tray. I was escorted out by a bouncer with a forehead like a walnut and a tattoo that read "Love Lucy" across his bicep. He dropped me onto the pavement with the care usually reserved for tossing expired potatoes. "That's Tony," she would later whisper. My ex. Of course he was. I stood outside, dazed, sticky, and officially exiled from Kent's most aggressive dining experience. Somewhere inside, the music resumed. Robbie Williams crooned, "I'm loving angels instead," and I couldn't help but feel he was mocking me personally. I hadn't meant to fall in love. I'd meant to grab a pint, maybe some chips, and feel marginally less like a human spreadsheet. But that was the night everything changed. That was the night I first met your mother. And that was the first time I got banned from the Tipsy Sausage. Yes, first. Chapter 2, Roller Skates of Fate. Let me explain something about physics. It doesn't care about love stories. It cares about mass, velocity, and the inconvenient truth that when a waitress wearing roller skates barrels out of a pub kitchen at 20 miles per hour, carrying a tray of gravy-loaded roast dinners, someone's about to die. On this particular Tuesday, the Tuesday TM, as it's since become known in our household, that someone was me. I had just stepped over the threshold of the Tipsy Sausage, a pub I'd never been to before, but one whose Google reviews warned me with haunting accuracy. Enter at own risk. Sausage heavy. Staff roll aggressively. The moment I stepped onto the sticky laminate floor, I heard it. The unmistakable swish of polyurethane wheels and the clatter of silverware being tested by centripetal force. I turned. Too slow. She emerged from the kitchen like a rocket dressed in tartan. Blonde hair tied back. Tray piled with pints. Eyes wide with the full horror of someone who'd just realized she couldn't stop. Her mouth opened in what I suspect was supposed to be move, but sounded more like M-wo-P. I froze. Naturally. Because when a beautiful woman is speeding toward you on skates with a wobbling tower of gravy, your first instinct is apparently to stand there and admire her form. And then we collided. It was biblical. A Yorkshire pudding took flight. A ladle of mushy peas hit a child's helium balloon, which floated upward like the soul of a startled vegan. One of the pints somehow ricocheted, mid-air, off a dartboard, hit a disco ball, and exploded into sparkles of foam and lager. I fell backwards with a theatrical flourish I hadn't rehearsed since GCSE drama. I landed flat on my back, knocking over a chair, a fake plant, and quite possibly the boundaries of personal shame. She landed squarely on top of me. The tray landed beside us with a gentle clatter that somehow felt judgmental. Silence. Even the ice machine stopped to watch. I blinked. My eyes met hers, Guinness foam brown, slightly horrified, and framed by eyeliner that had survived untold chaos. I had what some might call a moment, others might call it a mild concussion. Same difference. I told you to move, she said, breathless. You did, I croaked. Very eloquently, she didn't smile. Instead, she rolled off me with the grace of someone used to scraping humans off floors. I attempted to sit up, but found my limbs were rebelling. My right leg was trying to impersonate a flamingo. My left hand was in someone's gravy boat. My entire body smelled like a Sunday roast after an earthquake. She extended her hand. I took it. It was warm. Strong. Slightly buttered. You all right? She asked genuinely. Her voice had that brilliant edge, sarcastic but not cruel. Like she'd been doing this job too long to care about awkwardness, but just long enough to find it entertaining. Absolutely, I said, standing shakily. This happens to me all the time. I'm a professional impact dummy for Waitress Weekly. That earned the slightest twitch of her lip. Progress. And then I ruined it. I'm Nigel, I said, wiping mashed potato off my ear. Would you, like to get a bagel after work? She blinked. Hard. Did you just say bagel? And that, my dear child, is when the floor dropped out from under my romantic moment, and the pub turned into a tribunal of dough-based treason. But before the trumpet, before the exile, before the shouting about foreign bread and cursed circles, I saw her. Really saw her. She was like the calm in the eye of a gravy storm. Unapologetic. Fierce. Beautiful in that way people are when they have no idea they're being watched. I knew in that exact moment, somewhere between the pain in my spine and the taste of horseradish, that if I didn't completely ruin this, I might fall in love. Spoiler alert, I did ruin it. Spectacularly. There's a phrase your mom once used to describe our meeting, like being run over by a questionably insured gazelle. But the truth is, fate doesn't knock. It rolls in, hits you full speed, spills 6 pints on your crotch, and dares you to make it romantic. Chapter 3. The Sausage Collision Report. If you've never stood in the center of a pub, drenched in someone else's dinner, While 40 strangers debate whether your presence constitutes a national threat to Gravy, then congratulations. You're living a better life than me. I was still dripping when the interrogation began. "You've caused a right spectacle," boomed the landlord, his voice echoing off every alcohol-soaked surface of the tipsy sausage. His sash now read Landlord, Judge, Sausage Marshal, New Edition. "I didn't cause anything," I muttered, gravy dripping from my sleeve like liquid guilt. She crashed into me. "Objection!" shouted Jerry Blunderstone, the pub's manager, who appeared suddenly from behind the fruit machine like a gluten-intolerant ghoul. "This man deliberately obstructed a critical roast delivery operation," she said, clipboard already in hand. "We have witnesses and a floor plan." Gary always had a floor plan. Lucy, still on skates and now armed with a mop, muttered, "It was my fault, honestly." But the room wasn't listening to logic. It was listening to Gary Statistics Pike, a regular in a mustard-stained waistcoat who claimed to be an amateur data analyst. "According to my analysis," Gary said, adjusting his monocle, which he didn't need, "there's an 82% probability this man entered with ill intent. The trajectory of the spilled pint indicates a calculated pivot designed to destabilize our tray flow model." "Tray flow model?" I croaked. "You interrupted a system older than time," whispered Mabel, Skids Johnson, from her barstool throne, her skates glinting beneath her tartan cloak.
The gravy grid. You broke the gravy grid.
A hush fell. Even the pool table lights dimmed slightly in mourning. "This is lunacy," I said, brushing off a Brussels sprout that had lodged itself in my pocket. I walked in. She hit me. That's all. "Oh, sure," said Jerry, raising a laminated emergency protocol sheet. "And I suppose you weren't the same man who uttered the forbidden word moments later?" I hesitated. "Bagel?" gasps. A fainting noise. Someone actually clutched pearls. The landlord held up a soggy napkin, nodding solemnly. "I think we've heard enough." He turned to a large hand-carved board that read, "Sausage Incidents, Official Reporting Zone." Beneath it were brass hooks, each holding an index card. He added a fresh one with my name in red ink. Incident number 147, the bagel infiltrator, gravy grid collapse. "I'm not a terrorist," I muttered. "Only a terrorist would say that," snapped Jerry. "Hang on," Lucy cut in. "He didn't even know about the..." But she was cut off by Colin, the sausage mascot, who waddled forward in his velvet casing, his plastic eyes wobbling with accusation. "We've had enough of outsiders trying to change things," he said, muffled from inside the foam suit. "First it was brioche. Then vegan alternatives. Now this." A drunk man behind me started chanting, "Make Britain gravy again," and the crowd took it up like football fans or cult members. I turned to Lucy. "Is this normal?" I whispered. She shrugged. "Honestly, I thought they were calming down." I was escorted to the incident chair, a red high stool with a sign taped to it reading, "Reserved for those who threaten sausage-based order." Lucy brought me a napkin. It was heart-shaped. I don't know if that was a subtle message or just the Tipsy Sausage's tragic idea of romantic branding. "Sorry," she whispered. "They take gravy seriously around here." Have they always been this hostile to bread diversity? She looked guilty. "There was a bagel incident back in '98. "Of course there was." The landlord, Reginald Worlington, returned with his trumpet. He blew a single note that sounded like a goose losing a fight. "Until further notice," he bellowed, "this man shall be designated as gravy adversary, Class B, and banned from the premises unless accompanied by a verified sausage guardian." "What does that mean?" I asked. "Means you need someone to vouch for you," Lucy said quietly. "Someone inside." She looked down at her skates. She didn't say it outright, but I could tell. She was considering it. Then Jerry stepped forward, puffed up like an angry donut. "If he stays, I walk." Reginald stroked his mustache, sighed, and announced, "Then he walks, and she skates." Lucy said nothing. But as I was led out, again, by Tony the Tonk Doyle, who enjoyed it far too much, she slipped something into my hand. A napkin. Folded. Scrawled in her handwriting, Whole Foods. Midnight. "Don't tell Jerry." I left the pub with mashed peas in my shoe, the faint echo of Make Britain Gravy Again behind me, and a bagel-based meeting with destiny ahead. All things considered, it was the best Tuesday I'd ever had.